Hi everyone, this is Amy from the Helms Academy, and today we're talking about rounding and estimation. These are tools that you can use in everyday life and tools that you can use when you're taking something like a HiSET or GED or TASC math test as well. Rounding and estimation will help you get an idea of the answer, even if it isn't the exact value that you'll get in the end. It'll help you be a good guesser, and especially if you're pressed for time, you can use rounding and estimation as a really good tool to take your best guess if you don't have the time to fully solve the problem. So let's start with rounding today. Rounding is making a number simpler but keeping its value close to what it was. So in order to round, what you can do is look at the place value that you want to round to. So do you want to round it to the nearest 1,000, to the nearest 100, to the nearest 10, 1, 10th, or 100? You pick what would be the easiest value to work with. And you're going to round based on that place value and the number to its right. Now, if the number to the right of the place value you want to round to is greater than 5, then you're going to take the place value you're looking at and round it up a number. And if it's less than 5 in that number to the right of the number you're looking at and the place value you want to round to, then you can round your place value by keeping it the same and then just add zeros after it. So no matter whether you round up or you keep the number the same, you're going to replace all the remaining numbers with 0. I'll show you an example so we can be clear. So for example, the number 41. Well, I'm going to want to round that to the tens place. Okay. So the tens place has a 4 in it right now, and the number to the right of that is 1. Now, since 1 is less than 5, I'm going to keep my number in the tens place where I'm rounding the same. So that 4 is going to stay, but I'm going to replace everything after it with zeros. So 41 becomes 40. But if I have the number 46 and I want to round again to the tens place, I would look at the number 4 and then look to the right of it at the number 6. 6, of course, is greater than 5. So I'm going to round 4 up to 5 and replace everything else with zeros. So my number now becomes 50. Estimation is finding a number that is close enough to the right answer. So you're shooting for the target, but you're trying to just get as close as possible. Now, with estimation, it's going to help you get a ballpark of what your number should look like for B, which is really helpful, especially if you're working with multiple choice. When you have 4 multiple choice options or 5 multiple choice options, it's really helpful to get an estimation first to say, could it even be close to some of these, or can I root some of them out right from the beginning? Like I said earlier, if you're really pressed for time and you just want to take your best guess, estimation is your friend. Because if you can get an estimate of what the answer should be, it will hopefully help you narrow it down to a couple of answers rather than having all 4 be possibilities. And your odds are better if you have only 2 options than if you have 4 or 5. Now let's look at some rounding examples. So we're going to take the number 32,678 and 82 hundredths, and we're going to round it to different values. So let's first round it to the nearest 10th. So you'll see the 10th place is in red there, the number 8, and underlined next to it and to its right is the number 2. So remember, we're going to use the number to the right to figure out how we should round the number that we want to round to, the place value we'd like to round to. So since we are looking at a number 2 there, we know that's less than 5, so we're going to keep the 8 the same and change everything else over to zeros. So our value becomes 32,678 and 8 tenths or 81 hundredths. Remember, with decimals, if we have zeros at the end, we could add as many zeros as we want, or we could take away as many zeros as we want. We don't have to worry about those as far as the value of it. 80 hundredths and 8 tenths actually have the same value. All right, let's round this again, but this time let's round it to the 10 place. So this time you'll see the number 7 is in the 10 place and it is in red, and next to it is the number 8. So since 8 is greater than 5, we're going to look at that 7 and bump it up to an 8, the next number up. So, and change everything else over to 0, so our number becomes 32,680. Now if we round to the 100th place, we see 32,678 and 82 hundredths. and the 6 is in the hundreds place. So with that, we look at the 7 to the right of it. 7 is greater than 5, which means we're going to bump that 6 up one number to a 7, change everything else to zeros, and it becomes 32,700. Now, if we round this to the 10,000 place, you'll see that number is 3, and the number to the right of it is 2. So since 2 is less than 5, we're going to keep the 3 the same, and we're going to replace everything else with zeros. So in this example, you'll see that if we round to smaller numbers, like the 10th or the tens place, we get closer, more accurate numbers to work with. But if we round to the 10,000, we get a number that's a little bit easier to do mental math with. So we'll have to weigh the options. There is no exact science to rounding and estimating. You'll have to choose the value that will work the best for you to be able to do quick math with it so that you'll be able to get the best and closest answer with the abilities that you have. All right, so with estimation, we're going to do an example to see how you might use estimation in real life or on a test. So here, we're going to estimate the total cost of the car. So the car originally cost $15,650. And then there were fees, insurance, and new license plates, and you can see they're all different values, and none of the numbers are particularly easy to work with. So if we can first start by rounding these values, and then get an estimation by adding them all together with the rounded values that are a little easier to work with, we'll get an idea of about how much we'll pay for this car, although it won't be the exact precise number. So you can see here our old values I've switched over to new values that are easier to work with. For 15,650, I went ahead and just made that an even 16,000. I know that's a good bit higher than 15,650, but it'll be a little easier to work with. And since we're working with large values of money here up in the 10,000s, then it makes more sense to me to go ahead and round up to 16,000. And get a nice even number. And it works out because some of these others will end up rounding down a little bit, like our next one, $2,050.56. It's easier for me to round that one down to just 2,000. Insurance, it says, is $398.97, and that would be much easier to work with if we just called it an even 400. And for new license plates, it was $32.19. And I'm just going to round that down to 30. So now, instead of adding together all of those numbers that we had before that had lots of different digits and we'd have to line everything up, now we have a much quicker version. We can just do 16,000 plus 2,000 plus 400 plus 30. And they're a lot easier to work with. So the total cost is going to be about $18,430. Now, if I were to do the math with the original cost, just to see how well I got my estimation here, the actual cost would be $18,131.12. So if I were trying to take a guess about whether or not I could afford this car, or if I had the funds to cover it, then this would be at least a decent way to look at the estimation, right? Without doing all of the math involved, and get a quick number to say, okay, I probably could or could not do $18,430. And then even better if it's a little lower than that, right? Thank you so much for joining me today to learn about rounding and estimation. If you have additional questions, please put them in the comments below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. For the Helms Academy, I hope that you'll check us out by subscribing to this YouTube channel and by looking at our Instagram, Facebook, and helmsacademy.org.